Hey everyone, so this is something a little new I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go over every album and song I've ever made and do a commentary over it. So this is the album commentary for Cosmo's Escape from Freedom official game soundtrack. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of an album talk over, I guess, or commentary, I'm going to be playing each song in the background and talking over it and explaining what went into making it, why, and what may have led me to create the song that I did. As well as a little bit of geeky stuff about some of the synthesizers I used to create most of this album, as it is all a digital with some analog synthesizer album. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into the main theme, Cosmic Cantina. So let's start each one off with a name. Cosmic Cantina is actually based off my wife's favorite restaurant in college. We were trying to decide a name for the cantina, or the I guess like bar area in the game for the co-pilots, and we had just gotten back from visiting her college town, and we went to her favorite place, Cosmic, and it is a cantina, so it fit perfectly. That's how we found that name very quickly. It worked out great. I was super excited. So what you just heard was a very large lead-in. A lot of pitch bending and extreme emotional pulling. Originally I wrote it for the game because I was trying to pull the player out of wherever they were mentally when they loaded it up and kind of flow you down this path toward the inviting home that is the cantina, the satellite that you play from, or, you know, when you start up the game, that huge home base that you have with your co-pilots and friends and such. I wanted to make the main menu for this game feel like a second home. Like, I remember when I was a kid and I would play games, loading up a menu screen sometimes just felt like I was somewhere. Like, I would load up Kingdom Hearts and I'd feel this sense of like relaxation, hearing Dearly Beloved start coming in on my giant tube TV speakers on my PS2. Man, it's a great feeling, and I wanted to try to get that here, but at the time I was writing this, I was actually watching a lot of Adam Neely videos, and so I decided to make something that would go from an E minor 7th to an A major resolve, kind of jazzier. That's how I ended up with this sound right here. There we go, into that resolve. What you're hearing in the background, kind of those spatial bleeps and bips, or bips and bleeps, was actually some stock things from FL that I layered over a very nice synthesizer I found for this game called Continua. Continua is a fantastic program, fantastic VST, and that kind of chill, warm, almost Fez-like sound really melted into the game well, and thus we have Cosmic Cantina. Oh, we're gonna have to make sure it stays on track here. So next is Blood, Sweat, and Ether. Funny enough, this is the second track. No, this is the first track I wrote for the game. Blood, Sweat, and Ether comes from the idea that I thought originally when this game was starting and we were looking at combat, it was kind of this passionate drive, like it's blood, sweat, and ether, because, you know, ether is, you know, what the game's energy system is for the ships and all, and so I thought it was really fitting. But funny enough, this track actually came out of an old game that was canceled. I had originally wrote the main tune for a game called Waifu Quest Simulator, which isn't anything what it sounds like. It wasn't some really weird like anime game. It was actually supposed to be someone trying to find their spouse, but they used the term waifu for, like, you know, catchiness and easy searchability and all that. But yeah, the game never came to fruition, and then I'd written this really fun track, but then I decided to change its key and time signature, and I came up with Blood, Sweat, and Ether. I had played about 2 hours, 3 hours full of Cosmo at this point, with the very small, I'm going to call it a beta, really, but the archetype we had of it back then. And it felt like the game needed the soundtrack to add to the atmosphere. It didn't feel like that the game was really needing support. for what was already on screen. It needed another element, and when you're creating a soundtrack for anything, film, game, any sort of the matter for media, audio is, I mean, 1/3 of the project. So, you know, you got what's going on screen visually, and then you have your story, and then you have your audio, and that's, you know, what makes up a game for the most part. You know, the gameplay, what's actually going on, and then the narrative, and then, you know, the music and the sound effects and stuff. So I wanted to make a song that really got the player into that drive and made the game as big as it was, considering at the time we had no story. And so I was really trying to make up for about half the game with this music. And you have this awesome breakdown section here. I wrote this on a GMS synth I bought 8 years ago. I don't even think I bought it. I think I got it for free. And then again, just a 3 oscillation continuous synthesizer. And the mixing was honestly, for me, very easy, but I understand for a lot of people, 16-bit and 8-bit sounds can be a little bit of a struggle to properly mix, and they end up layering and making these awful, what I call Hertz echoes. I don't know the correct term for it. I really should go back to engineering school. But basically, I'll have 2 levels where the synth's outputting a certain wave that layers over another one of the synthesizers, due to, you know, both using dogtooth, both give the same frequency range, and it just like doubles the volume basically in that one part, and it really screws up everything you're hearing. And so it took a very, very, very conscious effort not to double up on any kind of waveforms so that wouldn't happen. So every synthesizer had to have its own voice. And lucky enough for me, I have a little bit of a trade secret I won't expend here, but I do have a way of separating voices digitally very well, that I do in my work. Hence, you can kind of tell when it's a DefCat production because of that. Oh, and then Mach 5, the name obviously comes from the car, because I wanted to do a drum and bass song, and I wanted it to be fast, and so I thought of Speed Racer, one of my all-time favorite animes. I have the entire series on DVD, love it. And so this is actually another song that I rewrote from Waifu Quest that was canceled, and then obviously only like 30% of it's from that game that I rewrote. The rest of it's original for this game. But Mach 5, I wanted to have a level of drum and bass without losing the game's vibe, and I also wanted a bit of a loftier, happier tune. So I feel like I tried to write a major song within a minor key here. And you hit this huge section. And I used, you know, a normal 3 oscillating synth for that hit sound. I used Citrus. I know it's a cheap program, but you can get great sounds out of cheap programs. You don't need to use expensive programs to get a good sound. And then, ooh, that fun citrus poppy stab is what it's called. So I have a stab going on, playing that like top part, and I honestly did not use a lot of reverb in the soundtrack other than in this song. And then the drum set that you have been hearing actually so far in the soundtrack I haven't mentioned yet. It is a bit crushed 309 with I think an 88 top for the hi-hats. I think a 74 bass low shelf kick. And yeah, I just bit crushed it instead of actually doing an 8-bit you know, drum set like kind of VST, because in all honesty, this game is an 8-bit, it's 16-bit, you know, and now that we're redoing the art of upcoming re-release of the game, we're basically making a second game. I mean, it's basically 64-bit at this point in some areas for the soundtrack, but mostly we're sticking to 16-bit sounds. And for those of you who don't really know what that means, it just means the level of almost like depth a sound can get, how much information I don't know how to put this into normal terms, but yeah, basically how much information I'm able to send through my program to create a sound. And so obviously I will be unable to make certain sounds in a 16-bit setting. And I do run through a 16-bit chip, meaning I physically can't make certain sounds, so I am limiting myself on purpose. But I get this much more genuine sound out of all the synthesizers as a result. It sounds super arcadey, and I think that's what makes the soundtrack my favorite to date. It's just how genuine it sounds, because as a kid I was extremely into Galaga, so much that I called it a Galaga instead of Galaga as a child. But yeah, me and my father would sit there and play that game for about an hour or two while my mom and sister would go to see a movie. We would just sit in the arcade at the movie theater, and I'm not kidding, we broke records every place we went. I would sit there on the fire button for my dad and spam it while he actually controlled and did the hard work, and some levels he'd switch off with me and let me get good at steering. It was fun. Ooh, the trailer song. This was I feel like this is the song for the game that people will remember. So the Aurora Dragon is the cosmic dragon that you fight in the game, who ends up being a little bit of a protagonist in a sense. But so that's hence the name. But the reason it's Dance with the Aurora Dragon is because, one, you don't kill it in the game. You do end up just kind of dancing with it and then leaving it be. But that is also my first game soundtrack I ever made was called, or the final boss song for it was Dance with the Necromancer. So I wanted to make another Dance With song for a boss battle. But this song is just so dang groovy. It switches time signatures so often. And the drum set work went nuts here. And then I wrote this section later on, kind of tacked it on. I wanted to make a bridge where it got a little bit more desperate, like you're maybe losing the fight. And I really attempted with this song to play out this Disney-esque vibe to it, where it's "come on heroes, you can do it," kind of very much, empowering vibe. Hence the syncopation in the main theme that you're hearing right now. But I feel like the time signature change really made this song hit well. And then I wanted to have a little exit loop, so I added this to the end with a old telephone bandpass to make it sound kind of old. Then it loops. A Day Without the Sun. This is talking about the relationship between the characters Luna and Sunny. And in the original campaign for the game, Luna was gonna have to go out after Sunny was shot down and didn't know if she was gonna make it. So I named the song "A Day Without the Sun" because quite literally you're missing Sunny, the character. I don't know if we're doing that anymore with the current iteration of the game, but I think this is the developer of the game's favorite song on the album, if I'm not mistaken. Jacob, I believe, thinks, or Jack Webb, as he would like to be called, I think this is one of his favorite songs. I do add a reference to Sailor Moon in this. I'll let you know when that comes up. But for this one, I decided, alright, here, it's right here. This is the main theme of Sailor Moon, kind of tossed in. There we go. And then a little bit of a Nirvana reference here up in a moment. I don't care whatever, never mind. Just like super small phrases that aren't really meant to be caught. They're just for me, but they are little references to other bands. There's even a Gojira reference in the soundtrack. I ended up using a doubled up polysynth here for the back, and I ran it through basically a dial-up effects filter to make it sound very electric and computerized. And below it, I decided to start increasing a little bit of the quality of the sounds, and used an attack bass with an extended reverb, or not reverb, but a little bit more sustain with some distortion at the bottom to get this kind of rumble. and the game starts to peer out of the 16-bit genre here. It starts to get out of the arcadiness, so I had to like go really deep into the arcadey sounds with the main like lead noise, hence it's so computerized and crazy. So I really had to like double dip for the main sounds, that way the background noises that no longer sound as arcadey as before don't feel out of place. I had to like compensate for it, and then of course a breakdown. Just think of that played on an 8-string guitar 2 octaves lower. And then a tempo change for once. I don't do many tempo changes in this album. Unlike my next one, that'll have a lot of tempo changes. Ooh, and moving on to Loading Y. And so this was a part of the campaign where it was some characters were trying to understand why they were even there, what the point of them, coming out there was, and kind of sticking to that digital vibe, like loading. Why is it they are here? Like trying to understand themselves. So with that computer aesthetic loading. But this is one of the only songs that's in major key. And it's trying to sound like it's in minor key so bad. That's what my wife says. The song just desperately wants to be minor, even though it's not. It always has that happy resolve. And then I went with a very different style of drum set for this. I tried to have that more human sounding, less digital, where there's a lot of accents and pull. The drum set really pulls the tempo back in a very organic way, rather than making it this like perfect digital recreation kind of thing. As well as the top layer, you're hearing those stabs, those bell stabs. You'll hear it right here. I tried to make those a bit crushed, but it got really hard to be able to do that. They got too fizzly. I ended up having to make them a lot cleaner. Hence the main, like, crazy pitch shifting thing got a little bit more distorted. I actually ended up going with a normal sequenced background for this, because I felt like the song was already so busy. I wanted to give it that kind of just relaxed, I'm playing the game vibe. I feel like the major key was already carrying this song enough. I didn't need to put that much effort into the main theme as much for it, or the main chorus. But the song does kind of roll and keeps pushing. It's not one of the more intricate pieces on the album, if I'm being completely honest. The lower end was a sequence from Harmer, or Harmless. I think it was Harmer though. Same synth I get my lower grunge sounds later in the album from. And that pitch shifting, for those of you curious, I'll explain that a little more later when the pitch shifting gets even more intense. But this is all hand done on a pitch shift ribbon that I have. And I really feel like it speaks to the player so much more. Like, this, like, there's something special about the leads in this album. It doesn't feel like some artist made some 8-bit sounds and tried to make a cool track that people would bop to. I feel like it stands out a lot because of it, but I'll get more into that later. Oh, Atonement of the Shameful Crown. So there's a boss that I can't reveal that gets the corona, which is the light around a eclipse, and wears it like a crown because it's such a big entity. So it is anointing itself with a shameful crown for blocking out the sun. But I'll let you enjoy this part. So, if any of you guys are into the band Polyphia, at the time I was listening to a lot of them, and I wanted to make a bit of a Polyphia sounding song for it because I wanted to make this battle so chaotic as what was going on screen, because, oh my goodness, is this boss chaotic? And then kind of have that laid back bridge section and then back into the mess. But yeah, I structured this a lot like kind of those new trap guitar songs that like Polyphia, Ichka, and a lot of other large YouTube bands are making. So that was really my inspiration for the song, and I really take a lot of inspiration from my music other than myself, so this was an oddity. And I really ripped it here with like a guitar solo-esque top synth. I put chorus on a GMS synth, and then made the lower part Waspinator from Harmer. So much grittier than the rest of the game, and I hope people notice that. I really start bit crushing hard when it comes to the bosses, because I want it to feel like the program's falling apart. Like the retro arcade nature is starting to become battered and bruised, and things are getting more heavy. And then I took the bit crushing off of the hi-hats for this one because I really wanted to make sure that trap feel led through the mix well, which it did. As you can tell, the drum set work was really complicated. It took me probably the majority of writing this song to do was the drum set mixing. And then also there is a Fate of Fates 808 bass kick under the normal bit crushed kick as well. So again, some more trap sounds bleeding through the rest of this song, making it is what it is. Fitting in the Silence is one of the best songs on this album in terms of level songs. Fitting in the Silence was all about one of the characters that finally takes off their headphones for once and gets comfortable, because there's a lot of people that wear headphones when they're in school 24/7 and never want to take them off, and so the song is kind of for those kids, and what it means to finally feel comfortable listening to what goes on in your head regularly, not being scared by it, because a lot of people do not like listening to their own thoughts. It gets dark really fast. So I try to make this really empowering, like you can do this kind of feel. Just and that's where the beginning of the song really ends, because now that main theme starts to hit the background with a low shelved, I believe that is actually a Citrus synthesizer that I used. And the top comes in with a Virus GMS synth that's much heavier in mid-tone. And then the Gamer synth off Harmer comes in on the top, making it a very full sound. And then the whole time you have these granite block type synths I made in the back. And then this section. I sampled the cicadas from Evangelion for that rise there, by the way. And then we hit. And the song really produces this "you can do it" attitude, and if you listen to it, these phrases are super long. This is a 16-bar phrase for the main melody. If you try to like hum it, it's a very long main melody. Longer than anything else in the game, other than maybe Dance with the Aurora Dragon and parts of The Man Who Fell from Earth. Yeah, this is where my guitar skills kind of really shine for this, and I feel like it worked out really well. I was really happy with it. I love the sound design at the beginning of this. Reboot needed. So Reboot Needed was about a character with computer system AI that she realizes that her memory chips was stolen, and she does not remember her past or why she is the way she is, and is very angry. And she needs to reset. She doesn't want to have to remember everything now that she's got it back. So very much of a keep moving forward, don't looking back piece, which is a lot of this album. So again, I used that dial-up type synth, but I tried to hold it back as much because this song's already so incredibly 8-bit and like 16-bit that I tried to make it more of a rhythm part. And then I let the gamer synth off of Harmer really hit that lead. You know, it really pulls in. It's wonderful. And then it leads to this huge. And I feel like I really blended the bridge and the chorus super well. And then the very low end, if you hear that really rumbly thing, that is a GMS. I think that is the Devil Crunch. And then I brought back the Mach 5 bells and granite block sounds. Then I was like, all right, this song needs to get like kind of rocky. So I started build up. I add some, slaps on those. I call them choppers. It's a type of hi-hat I use. Then I decided this song needs a solo. Because this character's badass and she deserves it. Then adding another layer, getting some thirds and fifths thrown in to make it a little bit more choral. And this is where it really shines, because it kind of breaks through from the melody. And then I added some chorus behind this, if you can hear the voices. That is a voxel synth choral voice that I used to try to make this like this really big moment, the rise, you know, someone quite literally finally shutting down a part of their life, literally, considering they are an AI robot. So Falling Stars was kind of a passion song for me. It's kind of that sinking feeling you get when you're about to end a chapter in life. And this song is all about some of the characters kind of hitting the end of the road for themselves in the game, and that sinking feeling that happens. It's a very dreary song, definitely the most dreary song on the album, like by far. And a lot of characters genuinely believe this is the end of the game for them. And I hit this huge break I love here. I think, yeah, it's not about one more part of the chorus here. One more repetition. And I try to make it a little bit like a lullaby, kind of like a credits type song, but I don't let it slip too far into that, just because secretly it's not the end and things are about to get a lot worse. So and you know, so it's dreary, but these people kind of want to go out with a bang and not a whisper. So I add this section that just pushes toward the end, and I bring in the Waspinator synth from Harmer to add this tearing emotional element to the lead. And this song strays away from the 16-bit aesthetic the most. Honestly, one of my least favorite on the album, but I don't mind the song. I'm not saying it's bad, but it does its job. It does its job well. I feel like I definitely needed to add more 8-bitty dial-up sounds to the rhythm section for this one, so it would have maintained it a lot better grounding for the game. So Midas Pain comes from the Golden Portal, so Midas Touch, and man, this boss fight's painful. There's a clear difference in the writing for this song. The song is very clearly an external struggle against the creature of the void that's in the Golden Portal. So I was trying to write like probably the most confrontational song there is, which is like this horrid being, probably harder than some of the final bosses in the game that you can face. And I think I really went into a little bit of a Metroid aesthetic for this song. And I tried to let the drum set carry this part just a tad. A little bit of an Egyptian flair, you know. Those top synths being the gamer synths again. And then bringing it down to a bit more devastating of a feel. Using GMS low ends. But again, being very, very, very careful not to mix sound waves, so you can hear like octaves randomly changing as a result. I just couldn't let anything muddy up the mix like that. For the majority of the album, it was all managed just by one central parametric equalizer on each one of the channels. Again, I tried to use a low amount of reverb to clear up the mix. I got that advice from Chris Christodoulou, I think I said his name right, the writer of Risk of Rain 2. I was messaging him on Twitter about it the other day before making this song. And yeah, we just were talking about mixing together. And yeah, let's get into the next one. So I feel like Celestial Inferno is one of the most Cosmos sounding tracks on the whole OST. Honestly, it has such an arcadey feel while having that high quality kind of extra tone in the background and the rhythm. And I feel like that's where this game shines best, is the times that I let the 16-bit aesthetic take the front and like the lead, while the nicer sounds kind of take a backseat. And a lot of continuous synth was used in the rhythm of this one, but oh my gosh, was this melody complicated to write. Yeah. And it's a Celestial Inferno because we were originally making a level that had a fair bit of fire in it, and we're like, wait, space, can't do that. So the name's kind of folly now. I might change it for the next version of the album. But yeah, very intense structure. And I was trying to really blend in this idea that every little movement matters. And then when there's so many notes, it feels like every note matters. It kind of makes the game very poppy. Not poppy in the sense of like the genre of music, but very twitchy. And then I wanted to kind of pull it back all at once and make this kind of sinking moment. And a very arcadey pitch shifting usage for the song. I felt like it fit really well. And then into that huge hit, that desperation, like we have to move forward again, being a very key element of this soundtrack overall. A lot of that slow pitch bending near the third and fourth beat of a bar, pulling in the chord until the ending always has that half step either lower or above to keep things interesting. And yeah, since this is near the end of the game, I wanted to also keep it a little bit more optimistic still, so that's what this section's for right now. I feel like the main melody's really trying to ask questions while the rhythm is trying to withhold answers. That's how I like this to make it sound. Kind of just, why are we, here? Trying to really beg a question while the rhythm section is just like, no. Like, you must go forward and find it yourself. We will tell you nothing. And the drum set was so much fun for this part. This big crush, smashing China cymbals. It was fantastic to write. was so much fun to write that. It kind of is, and then you do find your answer with the next song. My favorite song in this whole. Oh, the man who fell from Earth. The name represents the idea that one day the most mundane things can be taken from you, even gravity, and your whole life can be set off. And the man who fell from Earth was written to be this final level. Like, this was supposed to be my magnum opus for this game, similar to Coalescence for Risk of Rain 1. Hence this huge lead part and a ton of sub that I really need to mix better because I've added way too much sub to the song and it's way too loud, so that needs to be fixed. So what I actually did for this section was I sang a part with lyrics, and then I wrote the pitch shifting synth to match what I was singing, and I tried to sing something as emotional as possible, and I think it ended up coming across really well in just the synthesizer. I didn't need words. And this is kind of that terror, that like, why, like very like woe is me section. And in the background, I try to keep that integrity, that dial-up 16-bit sound. Yeah. While the top lane of the top part of the chorus is just screaming for recognition. But then you get down and dirty. And I feel like this section's kind of the player taking back a little control and realizing like you're really cool, like your character's really dope. Like, it's confusing, it's off-putting, things are difficult, but you're badass. And this is kind of that hope coming out of the character again, really trying to push forward that I have to do this, and if I can't, then what am I? Kind of feeling like just, you guys can hear it, I hope you can. And then back into that cry for, you know, what their purpose is. That da 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 section is why must I be saved? Yeah. And it's there's a very large discovery in the campaign that I can't give away that happens in this section that is very emotionally heavy, hence this song. And I think it fits perfect. And yeah, it ties into the campaign really heavy, but I won't give anything away. Or the story, not the campaign, just the story of the game. And the next is the final boss song I originally wrote for the original version of the game. So the reason it's called Painful Idolize is, think of a final boss fight where they want to be God, so they're like an idol, but they're not happy, they're just in pain, so that's hence the name. And like what it must look like to stare into those eyes. And I really wanted to make a final boss song that felt scary. Like when you loaded up that level, it was freaky. Hence this main GMS synthesizer going nuts. And with a gamer synth on top of it. And then the chorus effect coming in the low end. But again, like I said, where this album shines, the top most, the lead section being more 18, 16-bit, and the lower section being more high quality. It's just, so I feel like this shines. And then this kind of like a, metal sounding bridge. I can hear this on an 8-string guitar already. And this very guitar heavy, pitch shifting, nutso lead. and then into this big push, because this whole fight feels like a constant shove against an avalanche. And the drum set really has to carry this section. If not, it would get very boring very fast. And I wanted to lead up to a genuinely horrifying, powerful moment, and that's what this lead up is toward. Yeah, I just wanted to make the player feel like this is maybe an impossible task. Hence this, like, huge hit moment. And so, yeah, as we come here to a close, this was originally the end of the game. Obviously, things have changed since then, but really proud of it. Really, really proud of it. And then this last song that's coming up here, Goodbye My Old Self and Friend, is about what it feels like to really let go of an old version of yourself now that you've grown up. And that's really the name, that's what it's for. Just goodbye my old self and friend. And I really try to hammer it home with this end section, and we'll just listen. I've always described the lead going on as a little bee kind of fluttering by a window, flying off in the distance. And that's the end of the album. I hope you guys enjoyed this album commentary. I'm going to be doing more very soon. I love doing these. They don't tire me out at all for whatever odd reason. But I appreciate those of you who listened all the way through. And if you did, comment platypus. No one else will know. We will, though. I really should have chosen a better word, but there we go, platypus. But thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. And, comment. That's the best thing you can do. I want to reach out to you guys. You guys have a good one. Thank you for watching.